All right, good afternoon, everybody. Great morning and afternoon fights here at Perth Arena. First and foremost, just like to say thanks to a few people in the Western Australian government, and specifically Tourism Western Australia, that allowed us and enabled us to get to Perth for the first time and WA for the first time. A few key shout-outs to the Premier Mark McGowan, Minister of Sport Mick Murray, and of course the Minister of Tourism Paul Papalia. Attendance tonight was 12,437. The gate was $3.6 million Australian, which happens to be the highest grossing sports event here at the Perth Arena. In terms of bonuses, the fight of the night went to Jake Matthews and Leach. Performance bonuses went to Formiga and Izzy Adesanya. I'd like to open up now for any questions to the media or anyone else in attendance.
Hey Dave.
Hey sir, how are you?
We heard that Yoel was possibly not going to be attending the post-fight media. What's his status currently?
We've had a few transports tonight. Rockhold, Romero, Ben Wynn, Maestro, Luke Chimo, Wilkinson, and Hirota. So at this point, Yoel will not be here.
Obviously a great event down here in Perth. Now that it's all said and done, looking back at the early start and just all, I suppose, the logistics around it all, how did it all go down, and did it sort of meet your expectations?
It far exceeded expectations. Aussies and the Kiwis performed well. The crowd was loud. The arena was packed. All week was an exceptional fight week here in Perth. The city's beautiful, very hospitable. Everyone had a lot of fun. The weather was perfect. And yeah, in working with some of the groups here, whether our partners or with Tourism Western Australia, I'm not sure if you saw much of the broadcast, but the scenics that we showed on the broadcast that showed how beautiful Perth is, we'd love to be back at some point. There's no doubt about that.
Obviously, you guys are working very hard to put this event on here. How much of a blow to the card was it in that last moment with Romero missing weight? And we heard that negotiations were going up until very late. And how exactly was that like for you?
Well, I think for us, it's never good when fighters make weight or when fighters miss weight. And so I think it sort of it takes a bit away from the main event. I'm glad that the main event fight continued, obviously. I thought the fight itself was pretty dynamic. First round they kind of sussed each other out, and Romero was pretty emphatic. I mean, that was a pretty decisive win. So in the end, I think you look at the composition of the main card, and other than the Mark fight, which obviously wasn't the result that our fans or that the fans here wanted to see, the main card was on fire. I mean, some of the finishes and some of the performances, especially the Jake Matthews and Leach fight, were exceptional.
Are you able to tell us, was there any stipulation whether Romero could not weigh past a certain point on fight night?
I don't believe those discussions were had, no.
Just on Romero, what do you think is next for him? I know you're not really in a position to matchmake, yep. But it seems like he may be injured, he may be out for a while. We don't really know that yet. Chris Wyman's obviously here. He's saying earlier how he would jump in if something like that happened. Yep. What do you think is next for Romero? And would there be any hesitation to put him in an immediate title fight given the weight situation?
Well, I mean, the weight situation, I don't think that's going to play into it. I think we've got a few factors that are going to allow us for some time, and first and foremost, it's that Rob, can't really fight for a few months. So there's a bit of time to figure out what happens in the middleweight division. I don't know the specifics of Romero. He's as I mentioned, he's been transported. But, this is something for Dana to figure out next week with Sean and Mick.
Sure. Just last thing on on weigh-ins. Yep. Obviously, people notice here in Australia and New Zealand no early weigh-ins. Are you able to just explain for those wondering why that is? Why no maybe late weigh-ins on a Friday night?
Well, the commission has a rule that the weigh-ins have to happen approximately 24 hours before the first bout. So we're just adhering to their rules. I think we put it at a point that allowed fighters to, cut weight in the evening, wake up, cut weight again for a few more hours. And other than Romero, everyone seemed, everyone weighed in other than Formiga, who was, I think, 0.2 of a pound over. So from our perspective, the Friday night weigh-ins are great from an entertainment standpoint. Gives a bit more time for possibly fighters to rehydrate. But in working with the WA Commission, this was something that we needed to follow.
Couple of quick things. Just how much of an asset would you say regarding the Aussie guys like, say, Tai Tuivasa, Tyson Pedro, Jake Matthews, and Mark Hunt to the market? I imagine they'd be huge. And also, what's the decision process between sort of keeping him here and drawing a local local fans, as opposed to putting them on international cards where they're going to get new exposure?
So a couple things. I mean, first, you saw and heard how electric it was when Tyson won, when Tai won. And so you balance the local talent to not only help sell tickets and build the brand here, but you balance that with some global stars like Luke and Romero to make sure that if you're a casual fan or you're hardcore, you're getting sort of a good composition of both the local and international stars. I think for those guys in particular, having guys like Tyson and Tai who have dynamic personalities, and I think Tyson's post-fight speech was one of the best that I'd ever heard. So having those guys and the character that they've got, how good they are with fans, most importantly, how engaged they are, the interviews that they give you guys in media, we've got a lot to build off of. And then you look at other stars like Jake Matthews, who have had a bit I guess a few ups and downs, but has a very bright future as well. So I guess the specifics to your question is, we want to make sure that we are treating the local fans, but rather than it being a matter of geography, it's more a matter of platform. Like getting those guys on a big stage like a pay-per-view event is pretty important, because these events have the cachet and are seen in many different countries around the world. So a bit of a meandering response, but I think you get the point about us needing to build key athletes everywhere to make sure that our brand extensions continue to fly.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Last quick thing for me, when's the next one? A lot of Australians are obviously wondering when the next one is. We're hearing potentially November. Is that true? And also, how do you see Perth as a market? Will the UFC return to Perth?
So first question, we haven't finalized anything for the remainder of the year in terms of another event in Australia. That November date for the past couple of years has worked really well. Good time of year. We don't have to compete with footy, rugby. It's after the cricket. So, for us, it's a good time. Weather's great, obviously. So we don't have anything, in the works yet, but we'll certainly be back.
Dave over here.
Yes, sir.
I just want to get your thoughts on Israel Adesanya. Obviously,
Yeah.
he showcased himself as quite the performer today. He's a Nigerian, lives in New Zealand, and he can also speak a bit of Chinese. So how important would he be to you in various markets going forward?
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty exciting fighter. And I'm not sure if you had a chance to speak with him this week, but he's a pretty interesting guy. He's got a great story. I think we were most impressed with the way that he competed tonight. Got up really quickly when he was taken down. He was sort of a bit unpredictable in the way that he moved around the octagon, and it was a great performance. I think there's the ceiling's pretty high for him. I know our guys, especially Dana and Mick and Sean, are very bullish on the potential with him. So if he can sort of transcend language and geography and culture, and is a guy that will resonate with people all around the world, that's it's even better story. But at the core of it, he seems like an incredible athlete.
Dave, you mentioned that you'd like to come back. Is that that's a guarantee that you will eventually? Is there a time frame on that?
So I mean, first and foremost, no guarantees, but we would absolutely love to come back. I mean, this week went very, very well. The Perth Arena was great, as I mentioned. Government great. Fans were unbelievable. We will certainly be back. It's a market that's very important for us. Also, Mark, when you look at the time zone that we're in right now and the importance of markets, like Singapore and Southeast Asia, like Shanghai and mainland China, it makes a lot of sense for people in this region of the world. So we will certainly be back here. I just can't give you a time frame at this point.
12 months ago, cage fighting was banned here in WA. How's Perth viewed through the eyes of the UFC?
The eyes of the UFC?
Yeah.
I mean, just going back to what I was saying a second ago, I think it's, first of all, we know there's a lot of fans here. We have been hearing it for a long time that we need to get to WA. And listen, it wasn't for lack of effort. It was just a matter of circumstance and the political sphere that prevented us from coming. So we've got the fan base. The arena's fantastic. I mean, all the pieces are in place. We'll definitely be back.
Is there any potential of an Australia versus New Zealand Ultimate Fighter at any point in the future?
I guess always the potential, but no idea whether that would come together. You know, listen, it seems to make sense. There's a lot of quality athletes from both countries. Just at this point, we've got no plans on that.
Just touching on a question from earlier as to what comes next, would it make sense that Romero's next in line to take on Whittaker, even though he didn't make weight here and we don't know the exact circumstances about his injury?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I'm kind of not the right guy to answer that question. It seems to make intuitive sense. Number one and number two competing. Were not for the misstep on the weight, you know, he'd have interim belt. So, I mean, all those things line up, and, you know, Rob's likely going to be on the shelf for another few months, and so at some point, I don't see it's, you know, out of the question. I just don't know. Right? It's not up to me.
And how long can Rob be on the shelf for? Like, when does it reach a point where he has to forfeit his belt?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that question. I don't know if the injuries that he sustained will keep him on the shelf for longer than, you know, 9 to 12 months, but, you know, you just don't know. I think our hope, I mean, we want our biggest stars to be able to compete 2 or 3 times a year. And we missed out on February with Rob. And so if we can get him to fight at some point, maybe June, July, August, then maybe he can turn again and fight at the end of the year. So that's our hope.
And Romero's injury, what's the early indication there?
Actually, I have no idea. I came from the octagon to up here, and I don't know if we even have the details on the staff here. He was transported, so they'll take a look at him, and we'll know more in, I don't know, maybe an hour or two.
G'day, Dave. Just wondering.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Just wondering if that attendance of 12,437 represents a sellout or not.
Not a sellout. Very close to a sellout, but again, the highest-grossing sports event at Perth Arena.
And sorry to focus on the negative, but there were some concerns in the media here in WA that with beer available from the morning, full-strength beer, you know, some conceptions about UFC
full-strength
fans. Yes.
Nice.
There'd be problems. There'd be, you know, rowdy fans. Did you hear anything like that, or
not that I'm aware of? No. I mean, the crowd seemed great. You know, usually, I mean, you guys can tell. Usually, when an altercation happens in the stands, everyone turns around to watch, and I didn't see that happen tonight. So, other than that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Have you had any feedback from above about how this event went, given it's the first one in a new city?
And by above, you mean from Dana?
Or his people like him.
Or people like him. I haven't spoken to Dana. Mick Maynard was here, and he was speaking to Dana all night, so I'm not sure. I mean, like everyone knows, we've been speaking to our teams back in Las Vegas all week, and so everyone knows what an exceptional week it's been. So there's no doubt that everyone there has the same feelings that we do actually here on the ground.
Just lastly, you've been to a bunch of different UFC events. Did anything stick out to you about this venue or the fans? Anything that you can single out? I saw, for example, a couple of tweets saying, "Are they feeding fake crowd noise into the audio?"
Yeah,
so it must have sounded quite loud.
I don't think so. I mean, the only thing that really stands out, you know, other than the crowd being very loud, being very educated and knowledgeable, I mean, you could tell when there was low points in fights, it was quiet, and when there was some moments of action, people got out of their chairs. I mean, that's sort of how our fans are universally. But the crowd did seem very educated. I think what was impressive to us was the place was full very early. I mean, our first bout was at 7:30 local time, and so to have an arena that was very quickly up to 70, 80, 90% occupancy in the first, you know, hour of our show being live, that's pretty impressive. Thanks, man.
Hey, Dave.
How you doing?
Just wondering, Melbourne was obviously headlined by 2 female title fights. Was there any reason that we didn't have any female fights on the bill today?
No reason of any significance. It's probably just a matter of just number of females who are booked in the next little while. But would have been nice to have maybe Jessie but she just fought. But no. I mean, we've no real reason other than this was just the way the card was composed. And nothing to read into it, I guess, is my point.
And you detailed performance of the night and best fight. From your point of view, who do you think was the standout and your favourite fight from the night?
Mine personally?
Yeah.
I mean, the way that Ty came in with the elbows and some of the big shots up against the cage. That was probably the most impressive. I really enjoyed watching Izzy fight. It was nice to see Jake Matthews bounce back. And then, nice to see Ross Pearson get back in the W column. So, I mean, there are a variety of things to be excited about, I think. Okay. Thanks, everybody. We hope to see you soon.